signing up for a course at the downtown London YMCA. Now, by my calculation, this meeting tonight is 40 feet west of that meeting room where we had that public speaking course. So I've managed to go 40 feet in 40 years. Not much of a journey on some levels, but on many other levels, a lot of a journey. The course was led by John Hodson. Now, John Hodson was a fiery, actually you remind me of John Hodson. He was fiery and he was enthusiastic, and he had been a graduate of Dale Carnegie. And at the end of the 8-week course, he asked all of the male members in the course if they would like to come to his Toastmaster meeting. And at that time, there was only one Toastmaster club in London. Now, the reason he didn't invite women was because they had their own organization. It was called Toastmasters. And I must, even being a bit of a dinosaur, I must admit I cringe when I hear that name. And when the club decided we were allowed to vote women in 1973, and I voted against it. Oh. Because I thought they would destroy the organization. It has been pointed out to me on many, many occasions how wrong I was. And I was thinking tonight that if there were no women here, it would be a very small meeting and not nearly as interesting. And I must admit, in all my 40 years in Toastmasters, I've never been told to have a look at the girls. Because it was the only time I would ever see them. So I must admit, things have changed. I stayed at Forest City for about 8 months. I got a job in Ingersoll, so that precluded me being a member of Forest City, so I quit. And I said to everybody, I said, I'll be back. And you know how people say they're coming back, and you say, no, they're not going to come back. Well, in October 1971, tomorrow, a year ago, I rejoined Forest City Toastmasters, and I've been a member of Toastmasters ever since. Things were a little different back then. We met at the Ivanhoe Curling Club, and we had a dinner meeting. So our meetings would start at 6:15 and go to 8:15, and we would have a 3-course meal at the same time. And in those days, the president chaired each and every meeting. And it was great fun because we ran the business meeting during the dinner, to see how many motions we could present so the president could not eat very much of that. It was great fun. When we had elections, we had campaign managers. We had t-shirts, we had flags and banners. It was quite an event to have elections back in those days. We decided that we wanted our meeting to go a little bit longer. And we decided that could we extend the meeting by 15 minutes. Now this was sort of like the crown jewels being stolen, because we were sacrosanct about those 2-hour meetings. I mean, they had to run on time. If you didn't run the meeting on time, the general evaluator made sure that you knew about it. So we asked Barry Evans to present a motion to the club to expand the meeting. Now, Barry was an interesting fellow, lots of enthusiasm, very vibrant, and boy, he could speak. So we gave him the overhead transparencies, and he put the transparency on the projector and he fired off. And he got more excited and more excited and more excited, and he got so excited that he dropped his fist onto the projector and the ball blew. That didn't stop Barry. He picked up the overhead and wandered around the room to show everyone what was on it. And needless to say, the motion passed. Now, we didn't see Barry for a little while after that, and 6 months later, we learned that he had throat cancer and died. But I will never, ever forget Barry Evans slamming his fist down on the overhead projector and having that ball burn. And that wasn't the funny part. The funny part was what he did with afterwards. It was a great lesson. We had a fellow by the name of Don Blanchard in the club. Now, Don Blanchard he worked for the Ontario Dominion Automobile Association, a very distinguished-looking person. And I was chairing a meeting one night, and I said, getting ready to pass a motion, said, "Would you please raise your right arm?" Don immediately jumped to his feet, said, "Mr. Chairperson, I object." I forgot that he had a prosthetic right arm. So he put me in my place right away. So I always ask for, please show by raising an arm. I don't really care which it is now, just an arm would be just fine. Pat Bentley was another memorable person. I have two boys, and one his name is Patrick Hayden Joseph, and he is named after Patrick Bentley and Joe Sullivan, who were members of the club then. So I have a real tie with Forest City. But Pat Bentley was one of these characters, and he was a salesperson, and he decided he was going to get white wall tires. Big thing in those days. Okay, this is the early 70s. He put the white wall tires on his car, and the sales manager came up to him and he said, "Pat, only the sales manager gets to have white wall tires." Undeterred, Pat Bentley went back to the tire store, had them reverse the tires so the white walls were on the inside. He wasn't giving up those prized white wall tires for anything. Forest City has always been a special place. It was a special place then, and it's still a special place. And those of us who have been around this club for a long time recognize that. And yes, the faces change, the venue changes, lots of change happens, but there are still those special people. I remember meeting Pauline Duncan, Thrasher now, in the late 70s, 78 if I remember correctly, when she first attended a summer meeting at All Saints Anglican Church. And of course, her history has reflected what Toastmasters is all about, becoming a district governor, not the first in Forest City, and probably not the last either. Ralph has also been a district governor. I mean, this club is just a marvel. The club was a single entity, and there are now, I'm guessing, 9 or 10 clubs in London alone, and they all sprung from Forest City. Not necessarily directly, but they all sprung from Forest City. One of the things that has struck me over the years is this program that we call Toastmasters. This thing was started in 1924 by a gentleman named Ralph Smedley. And some people have wondered if I ever met him. No, he died just a couple of years before I joined. But Ralph Smedley had this notion. He worked in a YMCA in the States, and he went to a YMCA and he said, we need some place to train our young men in leadership and speaking. So he started this club, and it never really grabbed on because he went to one place, then he moved to a different place as a YMCA worker, and it wasn't until he got to Santa Ana, California that the thing really took hold. But it's a very simple process. Lori would know as a life coach, if you can make it easy for people, then there's more chance of success. We do things in Toastmasters, we receive feedback, we get a chance to do something else, we receive feedback. The whole thing works. And it doesn't matter what club you go to, it doesn't matter where in the world you go to visit a Toastmasters club, the program works. I was asked the other day, well, what difference has Toastmasters meant to you? I was a teacher for 21 years, and people say, oh, that's why you're involved in Toastmasters. No, I was a teacher because I was a Toastmaster. A lot longer in this organization than as a teacher. In 1983, I called down to the University of Notre Dame because they have a memorial breakfast and mass for Newt Rockney. How many have heard of Newt Rockney? Thank you. And I phoned down for tickets, and this fellow says to me, he says, "Where are you phoning from?" I said, "London." "London?" "Yeah, it's between Detroit and Toronto." "Oh, you're Canadian?" And I said, "Yes." And I had originally seen the Newt Rockney movie when I was 10, and that sparked a lifelong interest in the man, the university, the music, the traditions, and I could go on and on and on. And he said, "Would you like to speak?" Well, would I like to speak? Of course I wanted to speak, and I did my 5 to 7 minute speech about Newt Rockney. Now you got to understand, it's an American audience. They're there to honor Newt Rockney. I'm a foreigner, and I'm here to honor Newt Rockney too. How could you miss? I mean, it just had all those elements. You couldn't miss it all. And at the end of my speech, the chairperson stood and said, "We've decided to make you an honorary alumnus." Wow. What a thrill. What an honor. I could never have done that without Toastmasters. Never would have even thought about it. But Toastmasters gave me that skill and that confidence. Last November, we were down for a game, and I've been trying to get in touch with the Notre Dame Club of Toronto, which I had been a member of previously, and they seem to have evaporated. And I wrote to the alumni office, and they said, "Would you like to restart the Notre Dame Club of Toronto?" I thought, that's an interesting request. I figured I'd better tell them the story. I'm not an alumnus. I'm not a parent. I'm a great fan, and I know a lot about the place, but I'm none of those things that I would have thought would have been prerequisites. They wrote back and they said, "We don't mind. Will you do it?" And I said, "Yes." Could never have done it without Toastmasters. And we're up and running. We've got a full slate of officers, and they elected me president. Now, do you think I'm just a little bit proud of that? Absolutely. I have a Notre Dame t-shirt on underneath my shirt, too. But that wouldn't have happened without Toastmasters. I stand before you tonight a vessel of an individual. It's not really Tony Nelson that's standing here. It's the vessel that contains all of the evaluations, the feedback, the role modeling, all of those things that I've taken away from Toastmasters. This is merely a vessel. And whatever I am today is a direct result of my involvement in Toastmasters. This program works. This program works because it's caring individuals who are gathered together to help each other. To help each other expand their growth and their knowledge and help them to rise to whatever height they want to reach. It is not a frivolous time. It's an important time. And what you do with your Toastmasters experience is up to you. Because you can have 1 week of Toastmaster experience, the same experience week after week after week. Or you can seize the opportunity to get out of this organization all that it provides. And this is an organization where you get a lot more out of it if you take on new challenges. If you take that manual speech and say, "This is going to be the best speech that I've ever given." That you gladly take on leadership roles. That you gladly share your thoughts and feelings about everybody else in the group to help them benefit. The program works. I have seen so many people come into this organization and they absolutely blossom. Talk about plants that grow. This is your opportunity. This is your opportunity to seize everything about this organization that you can. I stay because it's a wonderful experience to be a part of other people's growth. What will your next goal in Toastmasters be? Good luck with it. Seize it. It's yours.